Hey everyone, we are back here with our project. Last time I showed you how to rough out a bowl blank, and now we go to the next step, which is shaping the bowl. So what we're doing is that we're going to shape the outside. We're going to do hollowing on the next step. So what the plan is that we're going to do a rough shaping of the outside of the bowl. Once we did it, we're going to use that with our square cutter, by the way. And then after that, we're going to go to the round cutter to true out that shape. And then once we're finished doing that, we're going to make a tenon, which will be used to help put this on our four-piece chuck. And then once we do all that, that will go into the hollowing step. So like I said, first up we're going to shape the outside. So let me get my stuff together. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this and we're going to groove this down. Like for this one on the tailstock, we're gonna put this to right around here. This is mainly for the tenon. And let me zoom in, get you a little closer. So yeah, right around towards the tailstock, we're going to go right about here, and then we're going to keep making cuts, and then it'll give us our rough shape, and then we'll switch to the round cutter. And this would be a good time to step up the speed. We're going to go ahead and switch it to the medium gear. So I'm going to loosen my face shield. So we're going to first move on the bell. We're going to move that to that second gear. Once again, we're going to spin manually, make sure it's in the groove. All right, tighten up. And so far it looks all good to go. All right, so. All right, once again, we're going to test the speed. We're going to start off on the low setting on the second gear, which is about 550. And they're going to pick up the speed. We're going to go for about, let's start off with 900. Okay, like I said, this piece is mainly going to be for the tenon. I may make this a little deeper, but just to take a quick look, what we're going to do is I'm going to temporarily take the tailstock off, and then we're going to take our chuck just to see if it fits over it. Let me make sure it's all the way out. And it just fits around it, but I'm going to shave it off just a little bit more. And I probably will, let me see what the depth is. Yeah, I'm probably going to make it just a little bit deeper. Alright, and we'll try that again, and we'll smooth that out with the diamond cutter when we get to that. Yeah, that should be, let me just one more time check the depth. Yeah, that should be good. All right, now we'll get to the actual shaping of the ball, and once again, this is going to be a rough cut. Okay, so I got a rough shape of the bowl, and I'm seeing quite a bit of tear out, especially on the lip of the bowl, right over here. But we'll take care of that when we flip the entire thing around. But right now that is pretty much our rough shape for the bowl, and now we're going to change over to the round cutter. So, over here. So now, I can get this. There we go. All right, so our goal here is to smooth all this out and make it one uniform shape. So that's pretty much what the purpose of my square cutter was. Try to get a lot of the wood out of the way, and I mainly use peel cuts. That's the fastest way of getting wood off the piece, and creates these little fine shavings here. You saw flying around. But of course the downside is it does produce more tear out, but that will be smoothed over in just a little bit. Right now let's go ahead and smooth out the bowl. Okay, so we've pretty much got a round surface here. Now before you ask, the reason why I've not cut this one yet is because when we turn it around for the tenon, for the chucks to hold onto the tenon, it's got to have a flat spot to go up against, and that's where this comes in. I have to make sure that this is flat before I start turning it around. But for now, it's pretty much the piece we're going to go with. So now, what we're going to do is, well, first off, I'm going to flatten that shoulder before we start cutting the dovetail. So I'm going to turn you around so you can get a better look at it. Okay, so here's where we are. So like I said, we gotta flatten out the shoulder, and then after that we'll create the dovetail. So for now, we're going to go back to the square cutter to flatten out that shoulder, and then we'll go to the diamond cutter to create the dovetail. But for now, this thing is going to go back. The tailstock is going to go back on for now. Let me make sure that you guys can see that. And as I'm locking this the wrong way. All right, let me make sure you guys can see that. Yep, all right. Yeah, I just had to flatten out that tenon. So we created a dovetail on the tenon, which will be used to hold onto our chuck. Now, why do you need a dovetail on there? Well, despite what you might think, let me zoom out so you can see better. This chuck, these pieces here, the jaws, they're actually not flat. So if I can, if you go at a side angle, maybe you can see, there's actually a little recess. You'll see it more closer to the tip. There's a bit of a recess in there. See, there's actually 8 different points where it grabs on, and these edges on the end is what actually holds on to it. And I've made this mistake before. On the first time I tried turning a bowl, But if that tenon is flat, if you try cutting with that, it's just going to go off the chuck and it'll go flying. But so we have created our dovetail, but before we take it off the lathe, we have to check and make sure that it is a good fit. So we're going to take the chuck, we're going to move the tool back for a minute. So we're going to place it on here. Let me make sure you guys can see it. So yeah, whenever you buy one of these chucks, you'll often have one of these tools. It goes into one of these holes, and then you're going to turn it, in this case counterclockwise. And the chuck should center itself up with the workpiece. All right, so now we're going to spin it by hand just to make sure that it is turning evenly. You also want to look on the jaws, because you don't want anything that can pass through the little jaws. And to me that looks good, so we are going to take off the workpiece and flip it around. So we're going to lock the spindle, and we're going to, is it locked? Oh, now it is. Okay, so we're going to flip this around, and I almost forgot to untighten those little screws from earlier. The other side. It's always those little screws that throw you off. Okay, so we're going to lock the spindle again, try it again, and this time it'll come off. Okay, and before we put the workpiece on, we got to take the faceplate off. So we are going to go back to the screwdriver and take all of them off. That will come off. And now, as you can see, this part of the bowl still has a lot of work to do, but that is the next thing we're going to do. So now we're gonna put it on the chuck, the headstock rather. We already have the workpiece on the chuck, so we're gonna do the same thing we did last time. Just try to make sure I center you up. Okay, so once again, I'm gonna place it on, spin it on, and then we're going to, once again, there are some, this time for this particular chuck, there's only one screw you need to tighten. And that will hold on just like that. Okay, and for this part, we are actually not going to use the tailstock this time, because we need all that access to do the hollowing process. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to clean up a little bit. We're going to take the tailstock off the lathe and we'll continue on. Okay, so we have taken the tailstock off the lathe, and now we're ready for hollowing. Now hollowing, it takes a little bit of practice to do. This one requires some awareness of your workpiece, Because you get too close to the edge, your whole workpiece is going to break, and it'll be all for naught. Now, what I usually like to do here is, now there's many ways that you can start off on hollowing. You can use a Forstner bit to drill through the center and create a depth. Or if you don't have that, you can just use the square cutter and just go on your way down. Yeah, I usually like to start off with a square cutter because that takes out the most amount of wood, and then I save the round cutter for when we're ready to shape the inside of the bowl. Once again, you got to be aware of the grain, because just like before, you're going to be going with the grain, against the grain, with the grain, against the grain. So you got to be very aware of where you are. And for now, I'm going to stick with the same speed I've had before, 900 RPM. But if I'm having some trouble, I'll up the speed. Okay, the hollowing is done. So now we got our shape, and now the next thing to do is to sand it down. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to start off with 80 grit. That's to take out any of the tear out. There's especially some over here. So we're going to smooth those out. Then we'll go to 120, 180, 220, and usually you would stop there, but I want to kind of give it a polished finish, so I'm going to go up to 600 grit and see how that turns out. And this one, you will need the respirator, but you really don't need the face shield anymore, since this is just more fine particles you're going to be dealing with. And at this point, you can turn up the speed if you wish, as long as it's not too high. We're going to put this to, let's say, I think it's a little too high. Let's go down to, I'm going to put it at 1200 RPM. Yeah, I'm reading 1180 right now. There we go, 1200. All right. And also, if you're going to go in the forward direction, go from the bottom. If you decide to reverse it, go from the top, but I'm personally going to stick to the bottom. We're just going to check for any tear out, and I still see some, so we're going to go back and try again. Let's see. Yeah, those could be fixed up in 120, but for now, I'll be right back. Okay, I did quite a bit more work with the 80 grit just to make sure that we got all of that tear out cleaned up. But now we're going to go to the 120, which gives it the final preparation, and then we go to 180 and then 120. Biggest tip, hold on to the sandpaper. So I don't know why my phone was going off. Okay, so we got that sanded down to 600 grit. Now you don't have to go that far in because it will give it a very, very smooth finish. But of course we are not done with this, and this is where we're going to go into our coating. That will be the next step, but I'm going to hold off on that for the next video because we've already covered enough in here. So next video we'll be finishing this up. So till then, I'll see you guys a little later.